You're probably aware of McKinsey's three horizon model used for planning products or innovation. It could really use some updating, though. And unfortunately, the innovation industry sort of co opted the model and changed all the definitions. Do you know what the horizons mean? Listen to this week's rant as I try to update this system so that we can use it to figure out where new growth is going to come from. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks. Hi, Brant Cooper here. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the world speaking with startup founders, investors, ecosystem developers. I've learned a lot in my travels. I've got some stories, and I have some thinking that I love to share. Welcome to Brant's Rant.
Maybe we should sort of step back and look at what it is that we are trying to tackle. Again, if you sort of listened to my rants or read any of my posts, my take is that everybody needs to learn this innovation mindset because everybody faces uncertainty. The uncertainty is faced inside of the core business, which in an H1, you're supposed to be protecting that core business, but uncertainty still exists there, right? And so the other place that's actually not talked about in the alchemy of growth and what I call the H0 is the back office support function. So HR, marketing, sales, operations, facilities, supply chain. Of course, supply chain innovation is a buzzword these days. And so there's these functions that support the bringing a product to market, for creating the product, marketing, selling it, bringing it to market. A lot of those are these core back office functions. And I actually like that people are looking at reinventing how they're doing supply chains because oftentimes those back office functions are ignored in the process. And so the H0s and the H1s are really all of the things that people are currently doing in support of today's revenues. And again, that's kind of how you want to think about H1s, is that's today's revenues. And so the H0s and the H1s are what are these initiatives that we can continuously improve them. We can extend them. We can sort of even reinvent some of the processes to make them more efficient in the production of the value that we're trying to create. We can bring in new technology or technology that has been invented on the outside, right? And that is already used in other places, and we can apply it to the way that we're doing work in the H0s and the H1s. So that's the core business protection. But there's another element to it, and I guess I'm about to confuse matters. So what happens if you're working on the core business and you have an idea that's about extending it, or it's about improving the processes, or it's about improving some of those H0s, and it takes 3 years for that to be accomplished? Well, so even though you're working on the H0, H1 part, the core business, it's actually an H2 because of how long it's going to take to get it. You're not going to see the results. And so there's kind of two ways you can spin this. You can either say that any initiative where there's some evidence for the idea that this is going to provide benefit, but it hasn't been proven at scale yet, and so we have to do that, and it's going to take time in order to prove that this works at scale, then that's an H2, and it doesn't matter where in the business that exists, right? So it could be in service to protecting the core business. It's not necessarily inventing a new business. And so I think that's where, the alchemy of growth is just a little bit old. I think it came out in the late 90s, and so I think it's a useful model. But I don't think, inventing or creating these new businesses needs to be the definition. I think the definition really should be based upon how much evidence there is that an idea will work, so that there's evidence enough to try to prove that it will work at scale. And then sort of, it doesn't matter where in the business that might be. And that allows you to invest in longer term initiatives that actually enhance the core back office functions of the business, or enhances the existing core business. And so I don't know, if you look at, I think supply chain is a great example wherein there doesn't have to be anything revolutionary done necessarily in supply chain, though again, some of the innovation stuff, maybe is a benefit. I don't know. I haven't really studied that. But using software platforms on your supply chain may bring efficiencies and allow you to detect anomalies and problems way quicker. And so you're actually improving the core business and protecting the core business by bringing in these software tools in order to help manage your supply chain. That could take a couple years, right? So that's an H2, even though it's protecting the core business. Or another example might be, look at the Texas energy infrastructure, lacking a lot of redundancy, a lot of older equipment that was just not kept up to date. This was a classic situation where the industry was deregulated, so it became privatized, and so the monetary incentives, the financial efficiency dictated not investing in the equipment in order to make the infrastructure more fail-safe. Never going to be completely fail-safe, but more fail-safe. And so that became a financial efficiency result, right? Is we're not going to invest in that. And so then the catastrophe happens, and we see that in the end, you haven't protected the core business at all. And so we have to keep in mind what the mission is of the company, and we should be looking at efficiency. Like I talked about, over the last couple of weeks, we have to be looking at the efficiency for the creation of the mission, not just looking at financial efficiency or manufacturing output efficiency. But so there again, if one wanted to look at, here's a project, let's update the infrastructure of our energy grid. We can update it with newer technology. It's not innovation necessarily. And a matter of fact, there's a lot of stuff there that's maybe not even unknown. It's not uncertainty. It just takes that long to put that infrastructure in place. But again, because it's going to be 2 or 3 years before you start seeing the returns or before it's operational, that's an H2. Going back to the original, it's funny how I have to, I rant to think through this stuff, right? I think that fundamentally we need sort of this update to this model. It really is the level of evidence and how long it's going to take for this to work at scale and how long it's going to take to implement that determines what horizon level it is, not merely whether, what we're doing to invent a new business. And matter of fact, not even necessarily in new growth, right? Because the idea of protecting the core business needs to be to also protect those revenues so that they don't go down. And just bilking people on their energy bills doesn't count. Hey, thanks for listening to Brant's Rant. If we're choosing capitalism here as a society, then let's make it work for a better world. If you'd like to join me as we redefine capitalism for the 21st century, go to beatcoop.co/D4A. Also, if you have a pressing issue that you're facing in your innovation group, your product group, your startup, and want to join me on video, see the link below. Subscribe, like, see you next time.